There we go. All right. What is going on, guys? It is Bagoibs here, and we are streaming. This is the first stream actually on YouTube and TikTok. We're streaming to True Social Reports as well. Um, as you guys may or may not know, Trump and Elon had an interview the other day. I think it was yesterday, actually. Um, but it was on the unaliving attempt at his rally. So I didn't watch it. My brother did. But I am about to watch it because shit's probably good. You know, they're both great speakers, except Elon sometimes. But who wouldn't want to hear this interview? So we're gonna be watching
Late
this. This
start.
is fucking
Went
quite some time. It's 2 hours and some change.
fortunately had a
Okay, one second. Grab the aux cord. Come on. Go. All right. All right.
a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers, and saturated all of our data lines. Like
Oh
hundreds of
yeah. Before we
megabits
even
of.
get started, if you know about this interview, you know they started off, I believe, they didn't start off doing this on X, formerly Twitter, but wherever they first started off the interview, they crashed the internet within like 2-3 minutes and got took down. So the whole thing had to go up on X. Um, here's the
Data
repost.
was
It's short, like
saturated.
5 minutes from the original one, but it's whatever.
We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say. And but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, um, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. So it's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way.
That's true.
And when there's
Listen to
an
fake news. It's
adversarial interview, like
pretty
no
easy to
one's
get
themselves in
false
an
information
adversarial
about a
interview.
person rather than
Um,
listening to them
so
speak
for
firsthand.
and this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who just trying to make up their mind, uh, and so you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation. So, um, honored to Donald, great to speak. We had
Elon.
a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation
When your brain's so fucking big and you try to take people to Mars, sometimes your brain moves a bit too quick for your mouth, I guess.
and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people, and it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then
The
you do
fucking
want
beeping.
silencing of certain voices. Usually, those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And
Yeah.
so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Um, well,
Hell
I
yeah, he
mean,
did.
maybe we could start off with, the assassination attempt, which
Let's fucking come out here with the big
was an incredible
questions.
thing. And I have to say that, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. Um, you, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's
Another thing, I'm gonna be stopping and commenting, but bro, if someone wouldn't have made an attempt on Biden's life, you think he would have stood back up, pumping his fist, screaming "fight"? Bro, his ass would have fell over and died, even if it grazed him in the ear, bro.
I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
Not pleasant.
Not
Yeah.
pleasant.
I
What was it like for you? Not pleasant. Of course, it wasn't pleasant.
said there was
I
blood. I
mean,
had
being
more
shot is
blood.
not
I didn't
much
know I had.
fun.
I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is
Quite
very
bloody.
bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. You know, I was telling somebody you have instances like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation, and I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew
Hell yeah, you
immediately that
did.
it was at the ear,
Yeah.
and because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, "Bullets, bullets!" Get down, because I moved down
Bro,
pretty
literally,
nicely, pretty
people were
quickly, and
screaming about it
we
for
had bullets
quite some
flying right
time.
over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter, and so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was
Yeah.
for those
Split
people that
second.
don't believe in God. I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have
This
to,
land
I'm a believer now. I'm more of a
is
believer, I think, and a lot of
mine.
people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually.
Yeah, someone was like, "Oh, you're supposed to separate God and the state or whatever," and it's like that may be true. Maybe God doesn't want Trump to be president, but he certainly wants his ass alive, and what he does with that life is up to him.
But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect
Yeah.
angle, and all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart
I
even
mean,
more
maybe
now
it's a
that I
sign.
know.
Maybe
I
Yeah.
that's a
love that
sign.
chart.
It's an
It
immigration
was the
chart.
greatest
You
chart
highlighted
that has ever been written
you
since man walked upright.
and
Yeah,
at that moment,
that's right.
the bullet missed your, hit your ear, but missed your head. I mean,
Well, the
yeah,
amazing thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration. And it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good. And after that, it was going to
yeah,
be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was
yeah,
exactly at this
Jesus
shooter.
Christ.
Very sad situation. Such a
Beep is
sad
so
situation.
loud.
As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey,
yeah,
who a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And
Oh, fuck,
a
his
friend of
head
mine came
exploded
up,
behind him.
Elon, and said, "I'd like to give the family some kind of help." And I said, "All right, that's great." He said, "Do you mind?" I said, "I don't mind at all." And he wrote out a check for $1 million and gave it to the wife. And you know,
What
she
in the
said, "This is
Bruce
really
Wayne?
nice, but I'd rather have my husband back," which is a nice thing for
sure,
somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great, and we raised a lot of
yeah,
money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people. Also, they were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The
Oh
doctors
shit.
in the
At
Butler
least they
area,
made
I
it.
tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them
yeah,
equally. And we thought
yeah,
my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. I said, "How many
I but
people were killed?" Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous
yeah,
thousands and thousands of people, and there was no
way bigger
land. I
than
mean,
any
there was
Harris
just it was all
rally.
people. So I said, "How many people have been killed?" Because I knew there were other shots being fired,
sure,
and they said, "We don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt."
I think just
And
one.
I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper,
yeah,
because he didn't know there was a problem.
Hmm.
He's
How?
an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was
yeah,
able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but
yeah,
he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium, and he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun,
Hmm.
immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do
yeah,
And
that,
they buried
Elon, he
his
would have.
ass.
I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been
sure,
badly hurt and killed. So
yeah,
I have to
absolutely,
take my hat off to him because that's also a surreal. He's been with them for 23 years, and
yeah,
he's never had anything like this. and all of a sudden he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to
Sure.
act and to be shooting somebody. But
Yeah, but that's what you're trained for.
he saw the gun,
What
saw
he
the
just said,
smoke, saw the
23
flame
years.
from the gun, very far away. I mean, obviously, he has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which assume you have
Yeah,
to have in that particular work. But he took
absolutely.
aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
Yeah,
one bullet.
Damn.
That didn't happen
yeah,
because the shooter had a lot of bullets. He had a lot of cartridges up
sure.
there
Yeah, it's
with
not
him.
funny. I don't mean to
So
be laughing,
could
but
Well,
have
fuck
been
yeah, he had a
very.
I
lot
mean,
of them. And
I
they
mean
got fired off so many
that's
times.
really he was very competent in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean, there does seem to be I mean some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's
Yeah.
just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most
Well,
people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen.
Well, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on
competence,
the roof. There were
corruption.
people,
Yeah,
because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and
right.
Trump all over
I
it,
saw
and
the video.
she's screaming. That guy's got a gun. You saw it probably.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
a
No, I
guy
saw
up
the
there
videos.
with a
I
gun.
mean, it's like
Okay.
I guess, I mean,
There's so many clips you can find of people from different angles and different like just seats in the rally. Just he's got a gun. There's a guy with a gun. There's a guy with a gun. There's a shooter. He's shooting. Just so many different videos from so many different angles. I bet when Trump and his team saw this shit, like after this whole assassination attempt was done, he's probably pissed, probably crazy pissed. More obviously grateful that he was awake, but bro, niggas needed to be fired.
for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are, you know, basically people wondering by it, pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it, but somehow
Secret Service didn't.
it's not being addressed. That does seem
Yeah,
crazy.
well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling
Surprised no one had
himself
a
up,
goddamn megaphone in the
and
Yeah,
crowd.
he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun, and he
Mm.
fell down. Actually, very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very
Mm.
badly,
okay.
but he fell down, and he did. From what I understand, he did say there's a guy up there with a gun, and the
No one
shooting
did
started very
anything.
quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah,
My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf,
yeah,
sinking a 2-foot putt.
yeah. It's not a
No,
tough
This is the
shot.
golf
it's not a
reference.
Um,
long
He
shot.
always finds a
The
way.
Secret Service person had the long shot. He had triple the
yeah,
distance actually. So it was a terrible thing. Look,
Let's see if I
it's
can.
hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on I think they're screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd
yeah,
control people showed us this. When guns go off,
Trump.
and it does
Yeah,
happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They
there we
call it a
go.
stampede, like
Oh,
cattle. But everybody, and a lot of
yeah.
people get killed with those stampedes. We had
Sure.
more people than you'd have at some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down. And it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and
mm.
and
Yeah,
uh, and a lot of press too. There was many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it, so
yeah,
sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I'll tell you,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people
Sure,
because
sure.
it's so different from what you heard. But
I said I want to meet a few of
so
those
I was
people.
down, but the Secret Service
Yeah,
guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing,
yeah.
and these guys came jumping on top of me, and a young lady, Kate, uh, would jump. They moved so fast, and let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now there was a lack of
Oh yeah, it did.
coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered, and
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that
thing.
like, I mean, looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the number one spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like the if you were to pick like what is the favorite, what if you so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building, the
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be number one.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better
No,
location. It's like number
no, that
one.
would have been the spot.
Um,
You know what people think
yeah,
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer, and then when he got
yeah.
his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head, and when he fell.
Real quick, if you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you guys are watching on TikTok, make sure you tap the screen, leave some little heart buttons. Glenn Schwab, God bless Trump, yes sir. We have a comment over on YouTube. Let's see. Got to diddle with the layout over here on Streamlabs. Can't. Oh, something about the smoke detector. That nigga funny as hell. Place your smoke detector battery. Yeah, I know. I don't have
Again,
D
hurt his
batteries
ankle
right
very
now,
badly, but he
mister.
was making the calls.
But
But what
yes, make
happened
sure you
is the
guys are
firing took place
liking,
very soon.
drop a follow.
So what
Yeah.
they
Stay for
think
the
is
whole
that this
interview.
guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast, and maybe that's why he he sort of missed. I mean,
Sort of
he
missed.
Yeah, but
he
as you
got
said,
me, but
he
it
would have
could have
hit.
been
I mean,
a much
yeah.
bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like there was it was a very near
It
thing.
was a
So,
miracle. If I hadn't
um,
turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would
well,
not be talking to you.
I mean, be talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. We'd be talking from a
so
different place. But
Get a Ouija board,
it
contact
was a
Trump.
it was a very terrible experience. The Butler
Oh
Hospital,
man.
they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something. Because I've done, I think over
Talking about the
300. I think I
Wild
did
Hunt.
a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And
Ride with
oftentimes
lightning
they'll
and
say,
black
"Sir, could you wait
dogs.
10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something, right?" And
Yeah,
that happens
yeah,
often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it
yeah.
didn't. It didn't get
Nigga
coordinated.
thinks
That
it's a
was the
movie.
problem.
Well, it was your. I think your actions in the heat of a fire, and like what I found admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual, or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And
Well,
yeah, so
thank you
Yeah, that
very
yeah,
fight or
much.
flight
I
in real
appreciate it.
time.
I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely.
Uh,
But I wanted to get up. I said,
wasn't
I
that
want to
great
get
of
up.
a cover.
And they
Still cover
wanted,
nonetheless.
they have everything there. They have,
Could have been much
they wanted a
better.
stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
yeah,
because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was
Did
hit
very
someplace
bloody
else. And
place,
they
the
were
ear.
saying, "Sir, you were hit in more than the ear." I said, "Nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up." And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people, and you could see they
Be
were
beeping
confused. They didn't know
frequently.
what to
Gonna have to
think.
get me some
And
batteries
I
today.
wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
yeah,
know that. And they went wild. You've seen the
Yeah, hell yeah, they
they
did.
didn't go wild when I
Yeah.
got up because they didn't know, was I alive? You really couldn't tell. When I stood up before the hand, before the, the fist in the air, uh, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was
Fuck
pretty
yeah.
Yeah.
amazing. It was a
Well,
terrible thing, but it
it
was
was
really nice.
incredibly moving. Yeah. Well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn that saved your life really was the illegal immigration
Right.
slide. Maybe this
That's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that
It
since
was. It was.
Hmm.
that slide
You're
saved your
right.
life
No,
basically.
the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right. But it was, and I
I
had to
know
be at
that's
that exact angle.
I mean that's a great one. Saved by illegal
You know,
immigration.
the incredible
100%.
thing though, when you talk about the odds,
I
you
guess
had
he
to be
was.
exactly at that angle. But the
Yeah.
incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
Yeah.
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's
Well, you better
always at the
frame that
end of
chart
the
and put it
screen.
in your
So
house or in
here
your
Yeah.
we have it.
office.
It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it
Wonder
was
if you
amazing.
fucking
But
saw it.
when you think of the odds of that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would
Yeah.
have been a very different story. It's very much I say an act of God. It's a miracle that it
Mm-hmm.
happened, and I'm
Sure.
honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well,
A Thanksgiving miracle.
what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely
That shit
interrupted?
sounded
Well, I
Indian
was
as
going to
hell.
say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. Great, these are incredible people. Like the three
Nice.
that, in the case
Very
of Corey
nice.
killed, and the other two, the families are. I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
As you were
prior to
saying,
being so
so,
horribly interrupted.
yeah,
But
yeah. So rudely interrupted by an
yeah,
assassination.
so, but no,
Um,
but the chart,
some people
So
have no
funny.
manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart; it's become quite a famous
Yeah.
chart.
Yeah.
But that was the lowest
Yeah.
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala
Oh no,
and
no, they didn't
Joe.
like the
You
chart.
see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Uh, Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. All these are all people that they've been on television. They says the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where if many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we
Ain't coming
can't.
through.
Are you having a good time?
Oh, that shit just scared me, bro. What the fuck? I forgot I was on YouTube. This nigga popped up talking about you having a good time. I was like, nigga, what? What do they got going on in this interview? That was wild.
We cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting
Yeah.
literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes,
Sure.
and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be
Hell
sleeping
yeah.
with that chart. That chart was very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but but we obviously need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal
Yes.
immigration, because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border.
Me.
Does that accurately
100%.
represent your position?
I say it
Okay.
very simply.
Because
They
then you
have to
have the
come in
situation
legally.
that
They have to
we're
be
currently
checked.
Yeah.
in.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's
Yeah.
saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could
Well, she
close it
wasn't
up right
strong on
now.
the board.
They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. You know, they had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and
Damn.
many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, you know, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible, and I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job on the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too. You know, you hear 12
Yeah.
million, 13. I
20
believe it's over
million, something
20
like that.
million people came
Yep.
into our country.
Yeah.
Many coming from jails, from prisons, from
Mental
mental
institutions.
institutions, or a bigger version of that is
Yeah.
insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the
China.
world. They're coming from Asia, they're
Yeah.
coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you know, you look at, it's so sad October 7th because it should have never happened.
Yeah.
It's so sad
Sure.
when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective
Yeah.
government. These are defective people, and they're not people
And
that
now
should
we're
be running
sending
it.
absurd
But
amounts of money to these wars that, well, don't involve us and shouldn't have happened.
where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5
Well,
years. And by the way,
Well, she is going to do something. She's going to make it so they can get IDs and vote.
they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they
Yeah.
won't do anything. It's all talk. She's
No.
incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good.
Yeah. No, I think it is
Yeah.
essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you
Bro,
have a secure
literally, if you
border.
don't have a border, you're not a
And
country. You're
And
just
secure
there.
elections, too.
you know, yeah, absolutely secure elections, and so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our services, you know, our central services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities.
I was about to go boom and
And
call it.
and I,
That would have been
but as we were talking
so
about earlier, I
nasty if
think
I did that.
having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and I, you know, speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, and I think that I mean, like one way to think of it is, who
Best
do you want
legal
on your
immigrant.
team? You know, who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna, you know, be great contributors to our society and to our economy,
Right.
and
Hmm?
you know, and who do you want on the team?
You're a
And
citizen.
and it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort
Enough
of
aren't.
adverse selection process where, you know, if somebody's you know, if somebody's like you know, uh, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so
A
long to get
career in
here.
theft or robbery.
Because we're such a target-rich environment. I mean, you know, why aren't more people who have a career in, you know, bad things coming here sooner? Because I mean, it's a piece of cake to go rob, you know, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And
Fuck
in a
yeah,
lot
it
of
is.
places in America, if you try to stop the
Living in LA for 4 years, bro. They were literally telling employees at, like, you know, a store, whether it be like a Lululemon or a Starbucks or a Target or a CVS, whatever, they were telling their employees not to pursue thefts or thieves. One time I was fucking going to the CVS to go buy some liquor, and someone's like running out as I'm walking in. Not running out, let me rephrase. Hobbling out on his crutches as I'm going in I was with Brandon. Um, but one of the employees who was off, like not on shift, chased this dude out and tried to get whatever he took back. But I'm just like, bro, why are you doing this? You're not gonna get a raise for this. You might even get fired from this. This nigga's on crutches and in here stealing, so he clearly needs whatever the fuck he's stealing. So this nigga might react crazily on you. Like LA homeless are definitely crazy, bro. You're not even on shift. You might get stabbed over $10 of merch being stolen, and you're not even gonna get thanked for it by your job. Like, what are you doing,
Person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah.
So it's
bro?
insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime
He may have
and
just
our
said something like what I was talking about. I think he just said if you pursue the person doing the robbing, you might be arrested.
Piece of cake to go rob, houses in
Mm.
LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So it's
It's
insane.
it's right. I mean,
What does
what's
that? What kind of
happening
sense
with
does that
crime,
make?
and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I
They're
hate
not.
to say it because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're
I
allowing
think you're
again.
right.
They're
Yeah.
allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down
That
72%. They're
what that
taking their
was. It may
drug
have been a
dealers. They're
follow.
taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their
I missed
prisons.
whoever's
They're
name just
taking
popped up,
their
but if you
criminals,
just
their
followed,
murderers,
thank you
their
for
rapists, and they're
following True
Yeah.
Social
delivering them into
Report.
the.
That's what Castro did
Yeah,
that.
well, he did on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
It was a much smaller
Yeah.
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is
Hmm.
down. And wait till you see the numbers
Except
that we
America.
have. You know, this is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that
Jesus
stood there watching
Christ.
in New York in one of the shelters and started
Sure.
Can I
pulling
even
out the
have,
knives
bro?
and bad things happened
Sorry, TikTok. Sorry, YouTube. I know he keeps saying it. It is the commander in chief. I can't do anything about it.
today, but this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
Yeah.
murder and all sorts of
Don't say
things.
it again.
And they're releasing them into our country and they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people. And it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because, now she's trying to say she
Sure.
had nothing to do with it. And she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location, which had nothing to do with
We've been to the
where the
border.
problem is.
You
She
haven't been
went
to the
in and out,
border.
I
Right.
guess, because she was getting a lot of
Yeah,
press
well, I
for
Yeah.
it.
haven't been
Had
to
nothing to
Europe.
do with the problem
Yeah.
is, but she
Yeah,
was the
well, I don't
border
have
czar,
real
and
caves.
people
Yeah. Yeah.
can't allow
No,
them
she's supposed
to
to say, I'm
get
the
away with their
president of the Howdy Doody
disinformation
Circus
campaign. Now
Army.
she's trying to say that she wasn't. She wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
Yeah.
what happened. You could shut the border down; he
Yeah.
wouldn't even know the difference. But uh, the fact is that she was border
Because he's
czar. But
incredibly
you
sleepy.
don't have to call her
Yes.
that. The fact is, you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No, it's
I mean,
horrible.
whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it
Something's
real?
certainly real.
So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly.
These are
People
people.
can look at my video and say, hey,
Yeah.
Oh, something
these
got
people look
sent. I
friendly.
don't know
I
what
don't look
those
super
are.
friendly, so
These are
Guess
people
I'll have
that
to look
Elon would
afterwards.
not
But
be the same
thank you
man
for
if he had to walk across the street
somebody just
and
sent
look these
something.
people
Thank
in
you.
the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And the caravans are coming in and they're putting and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing
Yeah,
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, "Oh, what a terrible thing to say." The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're taking all of their bad
Worst people
people,
and getting
really
rid of
bad
them.
people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them, but these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
yeah, yeah,
workers, or they don't want to work, or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in
It's
many
pretty good.
cases.
That's pretty
And they're
smart.
also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are
yeah,
really brutal people. And
Hmm.
they're coming into our country
yeah.
at levels that have never been seen before. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how
She wants them to
Welcome
vote.
to the Impress Express. Can you apply
Yeah.
she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
Yeah, no, no.
we have 20 million people
I
poured
think is
in. It's a,
Well, if you don't know how to make the border any better than it currently is, you destroy it for 3.5 years and then spend the last half a year of your campaign, well, trying to make it look like you're doing something. So you have another 4 years if you win to, well, do nothing again.
terrible
Yeah, I
thing.
think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to
It's
be
gonna be
even
really
worse
bad.
with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past, 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't
left
have a country
at that
left.
point.
Hell
Elon,
no.
if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. You know, we think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, you know, the four. But it's not that, it's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To
No,
be clear,
Mexico
it's
less,
it's
less than
just the
the others.
border. It's just the
And
border with
almost no
Mexico, but the
one.
people coming in,
That
it's
shit's
Earth,
crazy.
the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in the
We're
U.S.
already
So
overwhelmed, Elon.
Mm-hmm.
We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York. New York, and I love that place, and what they're doing to it is horrible, what they're doing to it. And all the courts do is they
yeah,
try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming, from the Congo. And 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they drop them.
Damn.
They drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, you know, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out
Hell
of
no, they
jails,
don't. That's
prisons.
why they
They
don't want
take them
American
out and they
citizens
bring them
in
to the
jails.
United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South
Well,
America.
just
They're
Earth,
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's it's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible.
Well,
So
Elon, we're going to have
that's
just to
yeah,
finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country what they've done to our country.
Shambles.
Think of it with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
tell you what, Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the
Capacity.
United States. Same with other countries. Some
Sure.
are 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of,
Yeah,
and they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate, don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. And, some people said, oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he
Well,
did
he
so
beat
badly, or I
Kamala
did
back
well
in
in the debate. The
2016.
first night they said,
Don't even want him.
wow, one of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this: we cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a
It's
different. Look,
yeah.
she hasn't done an
I mean,
interview since this
yeah.
whole scam started.
Well,
And say what you want. This
yeah.
was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice
Yeah.
way or we can do it the
No.
hard way.
Yeah. No, I mean, they just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did with this guy,
So
and I'm no
yeah.
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
Well,
And we wouldn't have had
A lot of things
Afghanistan.
avoided.
But we think of
well,
it,
yeah.
you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world.
A lot of
We would
children.
also have
No,
no.
no,
been
Inflation
saved.
was caused by oil.
Yeah, no. I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are, are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do? And do they fear the American president, or is there someone they do not respect?
No one
and do
fears
not
Joe
fear?
Biden.
And I think they would. They
No one
would
fears
rightfully
Kamala
be.
Harris either.
I mean, look at that the footage with the assassination. They're like, okay,
Maybe they'd fear her
President
laugh.
Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like, whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be
Of course
intimidated
not.
by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators
Ensures
are
that global
scared
security.
of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just
Too
bad
much
people,
shifty
just
shift.
sick people. Frankly, I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But they put our country in danger with that stuff too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest, I think, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say,
Yeah.
I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that
Yeah.
to fund, and this pathetic president gets in there. And the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers. Shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down, and he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make
Right?
any
Sense,
sense.
bro,
It's
literally.
it's inconsistent.
Makes
Certainly
actually no sense.
But I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners, the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security. Because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of
and
them.
that puts it puts the
Yeah.
whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one
It's
of
a
them,
big
and I
deal.
know them well. I know Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious. And they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these
Yeah.
are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even
Yeah.
believe it. They can't believe this
Frothing at the
happened.
mouth.
All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. You know, when I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from
China.
Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah.
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise,
Sure.
you want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no money,
Yeah.
and Israel would have never been attacked. It is zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him
Well,
things
don't
that
do it,
what I
Vladimir.
do, and he said, no way. And I said,
That
way.
boy Vlad
And you know, it's the
Plasmius.
last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. You know, getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with
Yeah.
Kim Jong Un when I met with President Obama just before entering. You know, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea.
Like
I
somebody
had that
recorded
problem
this
worked out
interview on
very
their
quickly. It
phone
was
or
nasty
something
at the
and
beginning
re-uploaded
with
it.
Rocket Man and, you know, all the different things.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they
Those
were,
like
they were epic
actually.
everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I
Mine's
have a
bigger.
red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger and my red button works. And then I called him
Yeah.
Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the
Little
bottom line.
Rocket
All of
Man.
a sudden I got a call from him and they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met,
Yeah.
as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with them great. We were
Yeah.
in no danger.
It-
But
yeah.
President Obama,
It's because they
thought we were going
respond.
to end up in
Yeah.
a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's
Yeah,
got a
it's
lot
not
of
true.
nuclear stuff
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
He's got plenty of nuclear.
It's
He can do plenty of
it's
damage.
it's
So
yes. I mean, it's because people like
Little Rocket Man is
Kim
crazy.
Jong Un. They respond to strength, not weakness.
well,
Mm-hmm.
And
he and I got it.
if you
He and I had
project
a good
strength,
relationship.
you're good. Yeah.
Remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say.
Yeah,
Let's bring
that was
up
cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. You know, I
Mhm.
always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are and controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries
Yeah.
because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we
Yeah.
have 5 countries
Well,
now that
yeah.
have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war would have been, that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite, everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disaster.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people. And, Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story. But if you think
Doesn't even
about
include
it,
any citizens.
Russia's gone, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force.
Yeah. Sure.
And it's
course.
very
A lot of
unfair.
snow, a
And
lot of
Ukraine
potato.
now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you, I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a man that actually made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just
Which they shouldn't.
When you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity, and it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And,
we're going to do is we're going to build
yeah.
an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the
we
best
should have
Iron
been had
Dome in the
that.
world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that
Absolutely,
they can't
sure.
buy groceries.
That'll make so many new jobs, opening up back our Keystone oil pipeline and fucking starting to work on the Iron Dome. Crazy factory jobs, bro.
Because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen. And it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discussed the border at great length. It's
Oh
nice
yeah,
to
our
have a
safety,
forum
our
like this where I
rights,
can
and our
discuss something
fucking
at length.
ability to live.
And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview?
Meaning
Do you
like
think
cost of living
that
and stuff.
Kamala could do this interview? They would take
Sad how many it's sad how clueless the Democrats are to all this, bro. Literally, if I can't respect someone who talks shit about things I'm saying being facts, and then they themselves won't even simply look up and look around at the state of the world and acknowledge it themselves. If you can't free think for yourself and use your own two eyes and see what's actually happening, I can't respect you just talking. Why are you even talking if you're just talking about things that aren't true and you're not willing to? Yeah, there's a word for that. It's ignorance. Yeah, I don't respect ignorance.
pass
No,
on you.
they could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad.
Yep, those are dangerous people to talk to. If you encounter a person who's talking with literally no substance, just don't. Better off talking to a brick wall.
When you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview,
Yes,
she's got
sir.
all
Trump
friendly
2024.
interviewers. It's pretty scary.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah,
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation.
Yeah.
The inflation. It
yeah,
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all
Yeah,
that money
nice,
and borrowing
nice.
money just to live. It's a horrible thing
right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I think
quickly.
a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending
Good old smoke
because the checks
detector.
never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services,
That's right.
that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not
Right.
sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly
Right.
every 100 days.
That's right.
Damn.
And the interest
That's
payments
a
on the national
lot.
debt have now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1
Damn.
trillion,
It's interest.
and it keeps
Yeah, I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it,
Yeah, that's
which was so
crazy.
important. We had jets,
$1
we had
trillion
fighters that were,
every 100 days
and
is
bombers that were
insane.
70 years old. And we did a great job in that. Then by the way, then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah,
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy
yeah.
prices down. Energy started it. The price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you're. You have a good,
Oh,
and you
nice.
do make a great product. I have to say. I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is
Yeah, when California tried
the
it, they
cost of
fucking
energy.
blew out
Not
the
only
power
gasoline,
grid.
it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has
Sure.
to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah.
drill, baby, drill. They
Yeah.
stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
Yeah.
that AI,
Yeah,
and this
Neuralink
is
and what
shocking
have
to
you.
me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of
Use
energy
Neuralink to
if
beam the
our
entirety
country
of
will
One
be
Piece into
competitive
somebody's
with
brain.
China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're
Sure.
going to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah.
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does?
waste is incredible, and nobody
It
negotiates
is.
prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for 2 planes. Now,
Damn.
now they're
Wow.
highly
Damn.
sophisticated.
That's
They're
insane.
even nicer than your plane, okay? But
2
much more
Boeings.
sophisticated. They're very, I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway,
Yeah,
but
because
it's
they carried the president.
5.7.
That's a crazy
It's a
number.
crazy number, but I said,
That
I'm
bitch
not
got
going to pay
Death Star
5.7.
lasers
I'm
on
not
it.
going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that
That's
and
good.
multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items. And
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money,
Once a
the
quarter?
taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission
I'd love
if
it.
it were formed.
Well, you're the
There's the thing.
greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on
Yeah.
strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone." So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy
Yeah,
to
by
help
the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I
Yeah, I was
chat.
seeing
We'll call it a chat.
many a screenshot and many a quote about that particular part that Elon offered to be a part of some efficiency committee program, and Trump, was enthusiastic about it. Yeah,
But
Yeah.
yeah. Why
congratulations.
not get the best fucking entrepreneur of all time to help clean up government spending?
This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's
he's
awesome.
he's great, and
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan. You know that he ran on MAGA, and he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He
Hey,
came in,
good
he
for
bought a
him.
lot of hats, he brought everything, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like
Yes, exactly.
2,000%, and they had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah,
effectively, and having just like so many departments, you can't even name them all. And what Malay is doing is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's having putting in regulations that make sense. And we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement
that's
in
right.
prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world.
Right.
In the I think in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked
Thank
number
God I'm
40,
out of
number
school.
38. Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top
Well, of
6
course
or
they are.
7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon
Tell
Musk. I
us.
need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states where
Yeah.
where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California.
Newscomb.
He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the
Yeah.
50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15 of
Yeah.
them, or 20 of them, will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of
Yeah.
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well run.
Sure.
And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of, the land or the sun, and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But,
Yeah.
but if you think about it,
Yeah, be
you'll
forced
have
to make
some
your
of
own
these
decisions on a
states. I'll
state
bet
level.
you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better.
Think in
And
the
you know
best
what it'll
interest of
cost?
your
Less
fucking
than half
of your
what
state.
it is in
Shit.
Washington. And
Yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah.
students in these, faraway states. And it'd
Well,
be unbelievable.
yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each individual if each state has to compete against other states, then people will
That's
naturally
right.
move to states where it's better.
Well, like
Um,
California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
yeah.
some of these
Called his
places
ass a
are just
loser.
badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do it good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that
Yeah.
the cost, you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little
Yeah. Yeah.
monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a
Yeah.
little English, right?
Sure, yeah.
Right?
No, but I mean, to what some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul
It's
sales.
actually
It's just
amazing.
people moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I
Yeah.
mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? The taxes are among the highest
Yeah.
taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good
Shit, by
job. And
people
their
working
crime
in
rate increases.
Jabe.
You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not
Well,
a good
I think there's.
situation.
I mean, I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal
Right,
government.
right. Well,
That's
you're
the
going to
only thing
have
that's going to
that.
get them to change.
You remember the
Yeah.
area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole
Mhm.
a lot of money, and
Talking about sticky fingers.
they went into a form of chapter, and it was very nasty
Yeah.
for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So at some point something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor?
That
And
shit funny as hell.
you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of
Yep.
these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy. A lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money,
Yeah.
and for people that are working day to day, it's just a form of taxation. And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and
Yeah.
that's a really big
Well, the
deal.
people that got hurt
Um,
worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And
Mm-hmm.
frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years
Sure.
ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people
Eat
go, they
that
can't
bacon.
believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at
Yeah.
it's sticker
I
shock.
think
They call it
yeah.
sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living
Right.
standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan
Swear I
did
gotta
a
get
great
that
job
new
on
battery
deregulation
today.
in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had
That's right.
anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think there's opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if it was
Elon, we
those two things, yeah, those are the big
Yeah,
deals.
we set a record. We did more deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses
I
than
wonder
any
if they
other
did this in
president.
person or
Remember I
what's it
had the
called,
rule for every
over
one we
Zoom or
put in, you
something,
have to get
because the
rid of
original
10 or
interview
12.
from X, I
And
don't
we
think
we
had
did
video either.
radical cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this
Harris
administration.
Walls
And we did
2024
radical cuts on things that weren't
is
necessary.
sad,
But
Mr. Big Mouth.
we were all set. We had the best economy ever, maybe in the
You
world. And
can
then what happened is COVID came.
you can have a president that has people twerking at her rallies, maybe some other time, but not anytime soon. No one's trying to have a president that thinks people will go to a presidential rally to see people twerking.
Came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt, but I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit, but if had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the
How about the
Wuhan
gift from Wuhan?
labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But had that
Yeah.
not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas.
That's a nice, rich country.
We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration.
Well, yeah, because there was like 6, 7 variants of COVID during the Biden administration.
But we had the greatest for
12 variant means 12 shot and 50 booster.
Probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years, and also said that African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better. Everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and
Sure.
we had the problem is they spent trillions and
How many
trillions of
viewers does
dollars.
this
They
have?
wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and
Has
we
3.
wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah.
What do you mean no shots for
Yeah,
you?
and absolutely. And I mean, I should probably say something about, like, maybe my views on
Yeah, it's too early for
climate
shots.
change
Yeah.
and oil and gas, because I mean, I think it's probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would
Yeah,
collapse. So it's, I don't think it's right to
because
sort
that's
of
how your food gets
vilify the oil and
transported
gas
to your
industry.
stores, and how
And
motherfucking
and the
farmers
the world
harvest
has
all
a
their
certain demand
crops.
for
You
oil and
stay
gas, and it's
warm.
probably better if the United States provides that than some other
Sure.
countries. And it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like, we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there for. It's not infinite. And
Nope, surely
there is
isn't.
some risk. I think it's not the risk is not as high as a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually
Excuse
simply
me.
gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is, like, we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not, like, we don't need to rush, and we don't need to, like, stop farmers from farming, or prevent people from having steaks, or
Right.
basic stuff like that.
All that and then some.
Leave
Yes,
the
sir.
farmers
Trump
alone.
I
2024.
agree.
In
How
my opinion.
crazy is that? Where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is
yeah,
a
that's
little
silly.
crazy. But it's largely taken its lead from us. I do say, though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to
Best interview, hell
create your
yeah.
electric car and create the
Yeah,
electricity
as soon as
needed
I
for the
heard that they
electric
did
car,
this interview, I knew I was
fossil
gonna have to watch it on stream.
fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able
Are you talking about Trump or Elon?
to, but I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in
100 to
Alaska
500 years is
approved.
kind of a big
Ronald
gap.
Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it.
I'm not
Everybody
sure
tried.
because it sounds like, because I have the headphones on, I can hear pretty clearly. It sounds like someone was maybe recording the original interview and reposted it or something. But like right before each, like, Elon or Trump starts talking, there's a very faint second track of them talking that comes first. So it's like there's very slight overlay on each of them, kind of like a little mini harmony, if that makes sense. Because, like, I don't know if you understood, but yeah, I can hear both of them. I mean, shit, maybe, but they each have kind of like a weird double voice to them. But yeah, Coda also had dental work.
Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove it, to get rid of it. He ended
Yeah.
it. His secretary went in and she ended it. And
Oh
what
yeah,
a
I can
what
hear
a
it a little bit.
disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big
Yeah,
for
I hear it on
Alaska,
the
I mean, you
S's.
talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say, bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure, really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have,
Oh yeah.
perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that time,
I mean,
something
my
will
estimate,
come around that will be
yeah,
very good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and my estimate would be, a little more aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of, like, we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. But I mean, my view is, like, if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3
Right.
to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2. Um, and
Yeah,
I
I
think
know. I need to
we don't
get
want to
a
get too
battery
close to
today.
1,000 ppm
Right
because
after
like
I finish this
that's actually
interview, I'm
makes
gonna
it
go get a
uncomfortable
battery and change it.
to breathe. Like just
Ugh.
existing in 1,000
I
ppm
appreciate
CO2
the
is uncomfortable. That's
concern.
like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's that's actually you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live in. So you don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I
I
think
mean,
we've got.
yeah, no,
I think we
no
want to just
worries,
move
no worries
over
at
like
all.
and
It's all
if
appreciated.
I don't know 50 to 100 years from now we're I don't know mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. So it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to
Thank
move
you. I
towards.
have
And
two of them.
on
One
on
for wearing the
balance, it's
headphones
probably
so I
better to
can
move
smush it, and
there
then one that
faster
is
than
much
slower.
nicer.
But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term, I think this can be done without people can still have a stake, and they can still drive gasoline
Sure.
cars, and it's okay. It's like it's not. I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. And I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way. And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to
No,
charge the
I didn't
electric
think you were
cars,
trolling.
and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I mean, this sexy joke, Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out there.
Right.
But I don't know, I like cheesy humor, So, but I'm a big fan of like let's have an inspiring future, and
Yeah.
let's work towards a better future, and we can do so without demonizing
Right.
people.
I'm okay. It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the
Ooh,
cars, and
that would be
it just
cool.
seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first.
Shit, if he wasn't thinking about it before, he's thinking about it now. The other day, I saw a pretty cool post on like Instagram or Facebook or something. It was like, like not parking garages, like parking lots where they have some form of cover over your car where you're parking. It was just like a concept photo of maybe it was real, I don't know, but I think it was a concept photo, just like rows of solar panels that kind of curve over to allow, lots of parking. But I think it was in like a parking lot or some shit like that. But yeah, a fuck ton of solar panels over an entire parking lot, so you can keep your car shaded, and also fucking it's getting solar energy. But that is also a good idea
But it
too.
would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces,
Schools in
on certain
California have
surfaces
that. Yeah,
might be good.
Yeah.
that makes sense. Damn near every house out there has solar panels on the roofs.
At least in certain areas of the country where you have or the
I think
world,
every
where you have
might
the
be
sun. But
everyone.
I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this
Oh
would
yeah,
be
schools
something
definitely
that would be
make
interesting.
sense.
But the one thing that I don't
Get
understand is that
all that extra
people
energy to
talk
help
about
power the
global
fucking
warming
building.
or they talk about climate change,
They
but
got
they
air
never talk
conditioning.
about nuclear warming. And to me,
Sure.
that's an immediate problem because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China is much less than us right now, but they're going to catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number one, and I mean, we're sort of tied. And
Yeah,
China is
of
far
course.
behind, but they're developing
Yeah,
at a
I
level
didn't
that,
watch it
you're not
yesterday, so
surprised to
stick
hear
around
very
for the whole
fast.
time.
They'll
Tap the
end up
like
catching
button,
up, maybe
click
even
the follow if
surpassing.
you haven't
But to me,
followed.
the biggest
Yeah.
problem is not climate change. It's not, and everything's, a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk
Yeah.
about
Nuclear power is underrated. It's
I'll
awesome.
prevent World War
Yeah.
III,
Oh,
I will. But the truth
okay.
is that you have to, because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is
Yeah.
a level of destruction and power that
Yeah, I
nobody's ever
bet.
seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is
Absolutely. You're
underrated,
right.
and it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. Um, and if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining
Right.
operation, and there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done.
Yeah, shit's just
So that
dangerous.
Maybe they'll have
sort
to
of
change the
have it,
name. The name is just, it's a rough name. There are some areas
yeah, it's a rough
when
name.
you see what
Like fuck
happened
out of
in,
me.
Good bad
right,
branding. The
we'll have to
branding's rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something. You know, no, it has,
Ah,
hey, it
okay,
has a
okay.
branding problem. When you see what happened in,
It does have a branding problem.
when you see what happened in
Yeah, if I get another
Japan,
strike
where
on
they say
True
you
Social
won't be able
Reports,
to
I
go
think I
on the
might get
land for about
banned.
3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the
Literally.
problem, where there's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again.
Yeah, I mean, they can try to stop it all they want, but they must have forgotten that this nigga owns the platform X. So it's like, of course, he could just go to his own platform and do the podcast there or do the interview there. Like, if they think that he wouldn't preferably do it on his own platform, then they're kind of silly.
You realize it's pretty bad,
No, that's not true.
but you're
Well,
right
no,
about it. It's amazing.
it's actually not that bad. So like after Fukushima happened in Japan, like people were asking me in California.
I don't mean to pause it again so quickly, but like that's quite literally why he took over Twitter, is because when, like, what if he never did that? Then where would they have gone? What platform? I mean, there's probably would have been a platform they could have used, but it's like, it's literally why he took over X, to promote free speech. Like, people were in real time trying to stop this interview, and he went to his own platform. Like, good fucking bye. Oh, I'm not signed in, so I can't leave a like.
California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from
Yeah,
Japan? I'm like,
literally.
no, that's crazy. It's actually, it's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it. And and I donated a solar water treatment, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant. And
Yeah, but you haven't
because the
been
danger
feeling
is
so
just
well lately, and I'm worried about it.
no, but I mean,
I'm
it's just
only kidding.
it's
I'm
fine,
only
It's like
Thought he was actually sick or
Hiroshima
something.
and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So
right.
it's
Well, that's
clearly
great.
not
That's good.
something that
That's
um
great.
so it's not as scary as people think, basically. But
Yeah.
um let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think
Well,
we need to be concerned about.
what they've done to
Um,
this country.
obviously,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we just won the big
I mean,
case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use local DAs, they use the local attorney generals like Fani, Fani, spelled
yeah,
Fani, Fani, and it's
yeah,
all a big hoax, and it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, the one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before,
sure,
and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare.
yeah,
It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world
Bro,
countries,
literally.
but it's never
yeah.
happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately, I have a platform like you, or, in all fairness, like a conversation like this, where I can talk about it and people understand. I mean,
I think
you
this was
fight for
also
election
live on Truth
integrity and you
Social.
end up getting
Truth
indicted
Social.
because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes that you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what
Hmm?
happens? What
Yeah.
happens is when after their political opponent, me, now Biden's, close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at
Jesus.
him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does
Yeah.
he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad, and it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing
Right.
that
Right.
for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people to lift, and he can't
Yeah.
lift it. The whole thing is
Well,
crazy.
he's clearly not, I mean, he's clearly like, we just don't have a president right
You
now.
don't
That's
have a
just obviously the
president, and
case.
she's going to be worse than him
Um,
because she is a San
Yeah,
Francisco
literally.
liberal who destroyed San Francisco, and then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You
Hmm?
talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was
Well, yeah, she thinks it's all cool, man.
the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to
Hmm.
even put up, and then they never find the
States where you
people unless
can't even defend yourself in your own house. It's literally crazy. We need a debate. What do you mean a debate?
they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our
yeah.
country is becoming a very dangerous place. And she is a radical left
Oh
San
yeah, same.
Francisco liberal, and now
Not
she's
San
trying to
Francisco, but
protect. Now she's
what's it
looking
called?
like she wants to be
What's
more
the
Trump
Valley
than
in LA? Yeah, Trump and Kamala. We definitely. I mean, I think we're getting that debate. What's it called? September 10th. I'm gonna be live streaming that just how I am now on YouTube and on TikTok. Unfortunately, it's happening on ABC News and not Fox. They couldn't get Kamala to go on there, so Trump had to go to ABC News. But doesn't matter. He's still gonna trample her. I mean, and he honestly doesn't even really need to. She's gonna do bad enough herself. Oh yeah, September 10th is your birthday. Nice.
Trump, if that's possible. I
Definitely a pretty nice gift. You get to see Trump debate Kamala Harris, the cackling demon.
don't think it's possible. But she wants to be more Trump than
Well,
Trump.
yeah.
I want a wall. I
I
want,
think that's,
she
yeah.
wants to release all the
Yeah.
prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came
Yeah, I
out
just saw
today.
that.
She
Yeah.
doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. In your business, everything you do is obsolete, almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel.
Hmm.
And the wall, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200
Yeah.
miles. We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant,
Wow.
I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to
I
have
mean,
open
yeah.
borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah, this is simply not true.
Yeah,
This is simply
no,
not
and
true.
everybody
Yeah,
knows
it's
it's
simply not
not true.
true.
It's a disgrace that she can
Yeah.
say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse than Bernie
Um,
Sanders. She is considered
yeah,
more liberal by far than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of
yeah,
the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no
That it is
fracking,
crazy.
zero. You don't. Now all of a sudden
yeah.
she's saying, no, I will. I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. like like the
Yeah,
Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him. Both
Yeah.
sides. That was a hard
yeah.
thing to do. Unification.
Yeah, no. I mean, Netanyahu came to
Yeah, but
give
that's
a
also no
talk
good.
to
Uniting a bunch
a
of people
joint
because they
Senate
hate
and
our
House
president.
sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
I think
Um,
it's highly
that's
disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for
Yeah, she wasn't nominated. Just being put in place is also unconstitutional.
her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your
And
head
then also, she
examined.
hasn't
And you see
appeared
tonight, I mean, as we're
publicly
doing
since
this,
that
I'm seeing
nomination.
reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. Their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped. We'll use the term that's
yeah,
appropriate, swamped. But they
yeah.
swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
So,
Yeah,
they
currently, we
can't
definitely
defend
are.
themselves. They just obliterate the whole
yeah,
place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you,
yeah,
she'll be worse than him because she's a believer
yeah. No,
in
I
being
think you're right.
radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, you really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last like month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and
Well, no, but she's a racially ambiguous woman, so, but it's a racially ambiguous woman of color, so, if you go against her for any reason, you're a bigot. Doesn't matter what. Well, it doesn't matter that she's bad at her job and that she's been bad at her job.
we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite
Oh,
history
yeah,
and
they're
make it sound
definitely
like
chipping away
Kamala
at the
is moderate when she,
Constitution.
in fact, is not moderate.
Well,
So I
her
think that,
running mate approved, signed into
They don't
legislation,
even put their
tampons
own
in boys'
citizens'
bathrooms. Okay.
priority over non-citizens. That to me seems like a giant breach of the Constitution. Oh yeah. No one knows what she is. I mean, we know what she's said she is, being Indian, but I mean, I don't know what she is. I couldn't tell you.
Now,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
all
that's
I have
weird.
to hear. Tampons in
That's
boys'
weird.
bathrooms. And that means
Is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her
Bro,
behavior has been
literally.
far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala is moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
well,
So I
her
think that,
running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay. Now,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
all
that's
I have
weird.
to hear. Tampons in
That's
boys'
weird.
bathrooms. And that means she
Yeah,
believes in that too. I mean,
yeah, that's
she
not
picked this
okay.
guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an
God damn, I hate that fucking
anti-Israel
beeping.
radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as the president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in
Oh
massive
yeah.
trouble.
Yeah, TikTok will definitely take your posts down. Talking about we the people.
Frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election. And I mean that's understating my opinion. Now you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission like saying to not have disinformation on the like during this discussion that we're having, like, and there's a lot of attempts
I think I got
to
a,
do censorship
email
and to
and
force
or a letter
censorship
from
even on
Europe
Americans
talking
from other
about don't put
countries.
out
And
misinformation.
what do you think about that?
900 followers,
Well,
yeah,
I
that's
know
ass,
the
bro. Getting
European
banned with
Union
that.
very well. They take great
Yeah,
advantage of
I
the
would have been
United
pissed getting
States
banned
in
with
trade,
900
as you
followers. I
know.
mean, shit,
We, through a different
I'm a little
form,
over 11. I'm almost
we
to
protect
1100,
them.
something like that,
And
and I
yet,
might get
if
banned.
you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. We have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It
Damn.
sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's
Mm.
probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them. With Ukraine, so we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. It's if you add up the European nations that in terms of an economy, it's about the same size. When you say as us, and they're in,
Yeah.
and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from. In this case, the enemy would be Russia. Used to be for the
Yeah.
Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is. They're in for 70 something million. I think even less than that billion, and we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize?
Crazy amount of
Why
fucking
aren't they
money.
paying what we're paying? And they're in much more. It's much more important for them because of the fact that they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not,
Mhm.
but they
Yeah.
should. They should. And I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I went
Yeah.
in and I said, you
Yeah.
got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat, but you know what happened?
Biggest power
Billions
move
and
ever.
billions of dollars came flowing in. And,
Yeah. I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses.
and then we get
Even though
taken
like
advantage of on trade. So think
yeah,
about it.
well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's it's like then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't
Bro,
make sense.
literally.
That's unfair, and that is an appropriate thing to address.
Well, when you talk about
So
cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that
Getting
feels
booted out
worse
of
about the
NATO.
Ukraine situation than I do because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky, he was very honorable to me because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are
yeah, yeah,
lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous for our country than the Russias and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
yeah,
Now, they've taken advantage
yeah,
of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media, you didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it. Like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not
No.
smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half.
Did we just jet off to a billionaire's island?
You having a good time?
I'm having a great time, but I also have this feeling that I'm not. There's something wrong with this place.
Uh-oh. Blink twice.
Epstein
Radar.
Island movie is this?
Sell your clothes with no selling fees on Depop. Clear out your closet and buy something you love. Buy, sell, welcome to Depop.
Of a question, he would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I?
Yeah,
Where am I
literally.
going?"
Come on,
So
YouTube.
anyway, but
Yeah.
no, he wouldn't have this.
That's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and
Yes, you
I'm
can actually
able
have a
to get it out
conversation.
without because I get treated unfairly
This
by
is
the
a really
press.
big point. You can actually have a conversation with you,
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
and you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like not it's not possible.
That's
Um,
Yeah.
so
That's
it's like talking to an
actually
NPC.
no.
So it's just
Well,
impossible.
but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about.
Yep.
And I got along with all these. You know, I got along with Kim Jong Un. We had dinner. We had everything, and he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. You know, a lot of people say,
Little
"Oh, do you
Rocket
think he's?"
Man. That
Yeah,
shit
that's for
Let me
sure.
tell
crazy.
you,
So.
I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss, but we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But you know, in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it, but I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it if
Yeah,
it's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, you know
yeah.
Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is the whole
Yeah,
concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I
it
saw a
would.
picture of her
Yeah, yeah,
on Time magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing, and actually,
yeah,
she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She didn't look
yeah.
she didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
Camille.
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the
It's
future is
true.
going to be better than the past, and
Yes.
that
It's
America is
true.
going to
As he
do things
said.
that are greater than we've done in the past, reach
Right.
new heights that make you proud to be an American and excited about the future.
They want the
I
American
think
dream
just
back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like
It's a fair
you don't
statement.
have that today because the people they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. You know, the Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent. And when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was
yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We
right.
could build high speed
Yep.
connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. Um, that it's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
That's right.
We already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you
Like,
did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. You could do that all over. It's deep.
yeah,
You don't
and
even need much structure. Assuming you're in the right areas.
no, it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
So I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with deregulation with an ability to actually where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the
Yeah,
world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an
and
American.
much
Yeah.
safer than surface
Like
trains,
the portal
where
in New
there's a
York. That's
danger there.
pretty fucking.
With crazy
Yeah,
people, it's much safer, much better. And it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating, and I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains they call them, I guess. And
yeah,
they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And
yeah.
it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that that I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes
You're right.
illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA for
Yeah.
improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's
Yeah.
lives. And
I worked very hard
and
on that.
you
You
know
know, we got that
yeah
down to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And you know, it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people
So they're
in many
incredibly
cases. I got
inefficient.
to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regenerons, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I
yeah
Sounds
got
like
some things done
bureaucracy.
very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
yeah it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take
Yeah,
months, and that improves people's lives. And I
yeah,
think and but I just wanted to sort of hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year, and
yep,
you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually
Hmm.
everything's illegal or takes forever. And then we just ossify as a society. We can't make any
yeah.
progress, and it's a really big
Well, you
deal.
know, Elon, just
So
getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. And but people would go to other countries
Comes with
because you couldn't use
capitalism.
the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved
yeah,
where you can
yeah,
you basically you look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally
Didn't want
ill.
to get
The
sued.
insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list if somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative.
yeah,
Okay. And as you know, we got it
yeah,
done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58
yeah.
years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't because of, I mean, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done.
Sure.
Somebody signs, you sign a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done. And we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to Try. Hopefully you never need it. But if you
Yeah.
do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People,
Right.
if they had money, they go to
Yeah.
Asia, they go
Sure.
to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and
Yeah.
die.
Well, I mean, and actually,
Mhm.
to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, they get more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did
Um,
something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they just couldn't get it done. And I got it done, and it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would
yeah,
work. It's pretty crazy. You're
absolutely.
right.
And I think so long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons, and like these are the risks, this is the risk, and like
Yeah.
you make your own
Yeah.
decision.
People have free will. Give them a
That
decision.
makes sense.
Well, I think just,
So
in sort of closing
Make
up,
that
and by
choice.
the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get
yeah,
nervous because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. What is the number? Wow. What is it?
well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow,
terms of people
that's bigger than you said. You said 25 and you're more than.
Welcome to the Impress Express. Can you apply lashes in just 30 floors?
Oh, nice.
Much more than double
that
that
was
number,
nice.
25 million. I think you're going to be
Skip
60
all
or
of
70.
that.
And I guess over a period of time, hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
Well, I
Get
think
him a
actually
bottle of
there's a
some
number of
nice
people that
whiskey.
will hear this conversation over the
That was a
next
funny way of saying no,
few
you're not
days
getting
and
Right.
paid. You're a
weeks.
billionaire.
It's
You're
going to
both
be
rich.
hundreds of
That's what they
millions.
say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an
Yeah.
honor. I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now.
Bro,
Inflation has
literally,
killed
like,
it, and
how can
they also
people
feel very
deny the
unsafe. You
quality of
look
the
at what's
commander in
going on
chief
with
and
a
their
lot of different
policy?
things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden
Well,
migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, do you know, have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, three of her friends in three separate
crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets in New York. And I said, well, did what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and
Yeah.
they just
They
know that
always get
Slip
away.
into the New
nothing's
York crowd.
and they don't even bother reporting it because there's not they know that they're not going to people are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York
The
with
only one that gets
zero bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They don't get, they
Bro,
prosecute
literally.
Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed up
Oh, it's terrible.
if violent criminals are being getting off scot
Yeah.
free, and meanwhile the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like this and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. Um, the legal system is supposed to be protecting the public
right.
from
Mm-hmm.
violent criminals, and it should
But yet
be obviously
you're a
allowing the public to
crazy
make their own
radical
decision about who should
Republican
be
for
president,
even
as
noticing
opposed to
that connection
some
of what he's talking about.
legal
Yeah, you
case.
can't
Once
notice
they
what's
start
happening,
this
then you're a
precedent, because
radical.
this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent,
Yeah,
and then you get a judge who's a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases, crooked as hell. But you get a judge, and you go
Damn.
into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you'll have a jury pool
yeah,
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
sure,
also be the other way though,
of course,
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate
exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a
Yep,
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
yep,
losing. New York
absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You
Oh
have an
yeah.
unfair system of
Yes,
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So, all of that stuff is important. But the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
yeah.
inflation.
I think there's a lot of
Right.
opportunity. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just
I
want to,
think I
I want to
think
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can
Oh
talk, you and I
yeah.
can talk about
well,
rockets and,
it's kind of you to say thank
well,
you.
tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars, so
Oh
many
yeah,
things.
man.
And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say.
Oh yeah,
So
that shit's gonna be
Yeah.
crazy.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a lot
I
of
think that's a
things.
very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big
That's a
risk.
very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been I'm not like some they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles
Oh, yeah,
and
it'll definitely be
solar
portable.
and batteries helping with the environment and
How
and
is
I
that?
actually
Think so. Chat
I
box.
supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for
And
president.
make
And
that
so
smaller.
it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed in the wool long term
Actually,
Republican. I'd call myself uh, historically a moderate Democrat, and but now I feel like we're really at a critical
there we go.
juncture for the country, and
What do you
uh,
say?
I think a lot of people thought,
Trump is
the Biden
finishing it.
administration would be a moderate administration, but it's
House.
not. And
Well, of
obviously,
course not.
we're just going to see
If they could have arrested him, they would have put him
an
in jail
even
by now.
further left uh, administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. That's you can Google it. I mean, it's not a. We're not making this up. That's how she was brought up. So, and we want to have
Electing a
a future
Marxist
that's
as president
prosperous,
is
and
actual
I
crazy
think we're
work.
just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is going to at a fork in the road,
It's true.
and I think it will take if the path to, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself, and but I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left. So this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support um, Donald Trump for president. I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if they don't, if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you, and I
Yeah.
actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an
Well,
honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America, and now it's not. It's almost not livable there. And California,
Tackling woman, bro,
likewise. And he
literally.
was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the
Letting
destruction of
non-citizens
California,
vote
and she
is
will be involved in the destruction of our
a breach of the
country if
Constitution.
people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn this country around. We're gonna do things and we can do it fairly.
Bro, and like one thing that is also crazy, like Trump, the whole thing people want to say, oh, Trump's a convicted felon. Well, the whole fucking charge that got him to be a convicted felon is based around like misuse of campaign funds and this, that, and the other. And you can't use the campaign funds in whatever way he was, which is fucking paying a porn star to fuck whatever. I don't believe it was campaign money because why would a billionaire risk it everything over fucking a porn star? But that's their thing. They're saying he misused campaign money and tried to hide it, whatever. Isn't that exactly what Kamala Harris was doing? Using campaign money to like pay networks and content creators and big people with large platforms in secret to like get people to vote for her. Isn't that like secretly using campaign money? Shouldn't she be charged with those same things Trump was? Or what did Biden even give money to? Literally. I don't know. It's all weird.
And we
It's all
have to get rid
corrupted.
of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at
Yeah.
us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are
Yeah. Yeah, literally. They write the book on corruption.
radical, stone cold killers in many cases and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take
Yeah.
them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we
Mhm.
want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system, just stop the lawfare, and I think that's like, and how are those even right wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense.
Bro,
That's
literally. You
I
can't
mean, would
even
you agree with
be
that?
a person who
100%.
wants
I don't
the
understand.
bare minimum for your country, which is what he was saying. Clean cities, cheap fuel, low cost of living, proper government spending. You can't even want basics without being called a radical fucking Republican these days. Shit is crazy. Yeah, exactly. Shit, I do the same.
And the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told
Bro,
you their
It's
crime rates
definitely
all
not
over the world
okay.
are going way down.
yeah,
In
it sounds
fact,
logical to
the
want that.
next
You
time
just
what
want the
we'll do
basic.
is if something happens
You
with
just
this
got.
election, which would be
You
a
want your country
horror
to be
show,
good. You want your life
we'll
to be
meet the
well.
next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to
Like it
meet than
sounds
our country.
crazy
Okay,
even
so we'll
trying
go.
to
You and I will
explain
go,
why
and we'll
this
have a
isn't
meeting and
a
dinner
radical
in
way of thinking.
Venezuela because that's what's happening. Their crime rate's coming down, and our crime rate's going through the roof. And it's so simple. And it's you haven't.
Yeah, my brother and I knew someone who, well, actually, shit, a few different people. Someone whose house got broken into in like Beverly Hills, and he called the police, and they didn't show up for like 40, 50 minutes. 40, 50 minutes after he called, and then there was another person who we knew who ended up fucking. I don't exactly remember what happened because it was a while ago, but he shot someone who entered his house. I don't remember if they had a weapon. I think they did, but yeah, he shot someone who entered his house. I think they were on the way out, and he shot their ass, and he ended up getting in trouble for it. Shit's lame as no. I think what it was is he got his gun license revoked, so he wasn't able to legally have a gun anymore. But still, like, who's trying to live somewhere where, like, you can't defend your family, and it's just non-prosperous for you to even live there because of poor government fucking regulation and crime, all that shit, bro.
Seen anything yet because these
Them
people
overly
have come
progressive blue
into our
states.
country and they're just getting acclimated and they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police, we have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their
Yeah.
job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal and then
And they're back on the street.
DA.
That shit's probably dangerous for them.
Hello, Moto.
Skip that.
Doesn't prosecute and that's let the guy out.
Yeah.
Well, then, like, why should a police officer risk their life to arrest a violent felon?
Well, even worse,
if
Elon,
nothing's going to happen.
even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer and they take away his pension, they take away his
Yeah.
job, he loses his family, he loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yep.
Square in New
Oh,
York,
damn.
and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets
Yep,
to
she definitely
California.
has.
Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how, I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? How can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything.
You know?
We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but it's something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things, but I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like
Thank you
punching,
for
stand-up fighting.
thank you
A
so much
police
for playing
officer.
this.
There
I
were two of
appreciate it.
them.
Yeah, of course.
And you had about six
Yeah,
of
Thank you
these
for
guys,
sticking
and they're
around.
punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own country,
Yeah.
if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness. And it's such a sad,
Yeah,
it's such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have
yeah,
crime, by the way,
yeah.
because we don't do anything about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera, by
Bro,
a
literally
gang of
beating up
illegal
a police
immigrants, and
officer
then
on
nothing
camera.
happens to
That shit
the
definitely went
guys that
viral on
beat up the
social
cops.
media.
I mean, and they're let
And
out.
now everyone
This
just sees
is
it.
Well, we're going to
unacceptable.
change it, and we're going to get them out of the country. You know, when I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take
Oh
them
yeah,
back. In the
appreciate it,
case
brother.
of
I'm gonna be
Guatemala,
on September 10th
Honduras,
streaming
El
the
Salvador, some others, you
Harris
couldn't get
Trump
them
debate.
back. And I said,
I'm very
really?
excited
Oh,
for
you
that.
can't get it back because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries, so you couldn't land a plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good.
Damn.
Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept
Yeah,
their.
it's
And you know what happened? They all called me,
yeah,
every
yeah.
one of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got it back. We took in so many, the MS-13 is probably
Yeah.
the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here. And their countries took them
Oh
back.
yeah, bro.
And
An
because I
entire
said, you're
town
not getting
burned to
any
the
more
ground.
economic aid. And once
Bro,
I said that, they were
people,
nice.
I
They
forget
wouldn't
what the
take
name
them
of the
back for
group was,
Obama.
Yeah, yeah.
but some group like took over Seattle. I don't remember what fucking group it was, but they like took over the entirety of Seattle.
Wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah, yeah. It's just gotta
Yeah,
be done.
literally.
We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have because they won't prosecute citizens either. Not just illegals. So if you can't have violent repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously by definition continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's
Oh yeah. Those were
I do sort of consider
peaceful.
myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for
The
people.
same
I
way,
totally
if you
agree
go
with
onto
that.
any Democratic college campus, you will as a Republican or a conservative, you will likely have a peaceful encounter with people. Or like how people of Jewish descent or religion or belief, whatever, were treated peacefully on many, Democratic college campuses. Yeah. It's all peaceful in the eyes of the left. It's all cool, man. Yeah, blue cities are full of loons. Hell yeah, they are. They fucking.
You want to have empathy,
They
but
could.
you also have to have empathy for the
Bro, the left is so deluded. The right could be saying the sky is purple, and I still wouldn't care because the left is just it's crazy. Oh yeah, Charlie Kirk is fire. If you like those videos, look for Caitlin Bennett. Charlie Kirk takes the method of like using facts and respectfully dismantling their bad opinions and their bad takes. If you want to see someone like really going in, okay, so you know about Caitlin Bennett, bro. She's so funny. She was crazy for even going out there doing what she does, causing a ruckus while she was pregnant. That was crazy. She could have gotten injured while she was pregnant. I think she maybe should have stopped doing that while she was pregnant, or something else. But yeah, I'll definitely do that. I'm gonna hop off after this live stream, or I mean after this interview's done. But next time I do a stream, I can react to some Caitlin Bennett's and some Charlie Kirk's. Maybe some. Yeah, I like Matt Walsh too. Love some good old Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles. The Daily Wire is pretty good. Yeah, I'll definitely start reacting to more stuff here on Truth Social. Watch you. Okay, bet. Yeah, I'll definitely start streaming more on Truth Social Reports on here on TikTok. This is only really my first stream. I went live one time because I just needed to like do it for the first time. So my like 14 or 18 day trial of streaming would go to 180 days. This is like my first real long live stream. But yeah, I'll start reacting to more stuff. Some Kirks, some Bennetts, some Walsh, some Knowles. Good conservative content. Yeah, I'm gonna finish up this interview.
Victims of the criminals, and if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You're not. and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for
Right.
people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not
And you just
real.
got to get
You're not
started.
thinking. You have one layer deep empathy. You got to say, like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to uh, hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why
Bro,
you want to
literally.
have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for
That's right.
criminals.
And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to where, because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart people, and they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So, I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight.
Yeah.
And I didn't need this.
I-
I'm like you. I didn't need this. I had a very nice
Yeah.
life. I didn't need to go
Yeah,
through
yeah.
court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the
Sure.
same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. But I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again, because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad.
I'm so glad he said that at the very end, because that's a great point that a lot of people don't even think about. Donald Trump's life is, like you just said, it's great. He's a billionaire. He knows probably the most powerful people in the whole world. His private jet is a fucking Boeing sized commercial plane, and he left all that behind to get shot at, to get put on trial for bullshit fucking charges, to be called the new age Hitler by society, bro. It's like, bro, this man is choosing to leave that luxurious life to do a service because he feels, like he said, the country needs it. Like, why would you think that he just did that for his own ego? Yo, I'm gonna get shot at for fun. No, bro, no billionaires trying to get shot at for fun. And if they are, they're gonna they're gonna do it within their own parameters, not an assassination attempt and almost get their head blown off. Like, yeah, bro, it's crazy.
They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're going to stop
it's horrible.
crime.
Like, the facts speak for themselves.
It's so incredible.
Speak for themselves. Like, it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. That's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like, the things I think are important for the future is, like, we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation, and
Right.
so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about, and that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like, I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right
Literally.
now. And but I do think we want to move at a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think and so I mean that's why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I
So
appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear. You're the American dream in the truest sense, but you don't hear about the American dream
People
anymore.
don't.
And you're going to hear
People don't
about
like
it.
America these days.
People,
They think
they
it's trendy
need
to
that
hate America. That
incentive to
shouldn't
go
be
out
allowed.
yeah,
and do it.
Yeah,
And
people
they're
burning
going to
our
love
flag
their
in
lives.
DC,
I mean, they're going to love. They're going to look
defacing our
forward to getting
beautiful
up in the morning and
limestone
going to,
statues,
going to a job that they love, not a
lowering our
job that they
flagpole,
can't stand, or not
lowering the
any
American
job
flag
at
off
all,
our
where they have no
flagpoles.
money, where they
yeah,
literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're going to do. We're
yeah.
going to do some great things, and I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military. We did so much, but I also learned, and I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over.
Yeah,
And you don't
literally.
know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I
Yeah.
know everybody, and I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice, otherwise we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. Has been, to me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people. A great inspiration, and I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up, and I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think
Oh,
that
yeah.
election will be the most important election, and I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if
Yeah.
we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think
Wow.
that's what it comes down
Thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I
to.
hope
Sure.
you got.
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Of course not. Yeah. Okay. The end of the interview. The five react to Elon Musk. Kind of want to watch that. Okay, I'm gonna watch this real quick. Which of the movies have you heard of? Dune Part 2, yes. Dune Part 2. Heard of that one.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Judge Janine Pirro, Harold Ford Jr., Charlie Hurt, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City. This is The Five.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, where's Jesse Waters at? I know he's got his own show, but I thought he was still in
Donald
the
Trump
five.
and Elon Musk holding a wide-ranging 2-hour talk on X. That's the platform formerly known as Twitter. At times, the two titans were chatting
No,
like
some
old
people are
friends
gonna
and
vote,
touching
but I
on
don't think
everything
they'll
from
get
the
enough.
economy, education, AI, and Kamala Harris.
The thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. She's incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something because he's not too good. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking.
They're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
So the interview was also chock full of some serious Trumpian moments. Watch this.
The stupid threats coming from a stupid face. Illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it I had to be at that exact angle. I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. I saw a picture of her on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. Something happens with this election, which would be a horror show. We'll meet the next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country.
There are some in the media, you can imagine they're not happy that you got to hear those words hours before the interview even began. There was one reporter from the Washington Post that asked if the White House was going to intervene to prevent misinformation.
I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's it's an America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that, or stopping the spread of that, or sort of intervening in?
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards.
Yep.
Did you know we also print these?
A ban on free speech is
Charlie,
crazy.
I was just thinking back to our days in the briefing room, and if somebody would have asked that, I know you would have
bro,
laughed.
they just love infringing on our First
They would have
Amendment.
been drummed out of there as they should have been, and I really don't get it. But it does underscore just how
It should have been like,
far,
who told you to ask that question?
Journalistic standards have fallen over the years, but also how zealously everybody, there's so many people in the left-wing press are working overtime to sort of extend this honeymoon as long as they can. I don't think that they can do it until the election, which is the real problem. Although I do think that she's going to probably get another week of it, of the honeymoon, because of the convention next week in Chicago. But I thought that thing last night was absolutely fascinating. You have two of the most consequential people on the planet today talking about real things, talking about rockets and tunnels. And of course, Donald Trump used to drive his people crazy when he ran in 2016, talking about how he builds buildings. I build buildings. People who do that are problem solvers. And if you listen to that entire thing last night, they were talking about solving problems. You're not talking about ideologues or politicians. They're people who want to solve problems. And it's very refreshing. Whether it breaks through and actually changes anybody's mind, I don't know. But I do think it's sort of the right direction if you want to solve the problems that are facing our country.
And we have plenty of them. Can you guys play for us the soundbite from Elon Musk about how he considers himself?
I've not been very political before. They try to paint me as like a far-right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles. I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand. Historically, a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country. To people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support Donald Trump for president.
I thought that was an interesting take. What do you think?
Well, piggybacking on Charlie Hurt's point, they weren't talking about amorphous dystopian hypotheticals. They were actually talking about economic development. They were talking about debt, energy, artificial intelligence. And you're watching two people, arguably the two of the most powerful people on the planet, agreeing about the state of the world and also talking about the future, not making up stories of the past like the Fine People hoax, which is what Harris and Liz Warren were pushing last night. When you look, when you look at this, think about those televised hearings.
Her whole shtick is based on fuck that guy.
Are talking about one issue, and they have to be prepped by staffers bearing reams of research laid out perfectly for them, and they still don't know what the hell they're talking about. And yet these two guys, I don't know how deep Trump can go on this stuff,
right there.
but he can at least talk about artificial intelligence. Kamala Harris is the czar of AI, and the only thing she knows about AI is that she could use some. And then her campaign, which kills me, said that it was two rich guys talking. So I guess like Apollo 11 was a bunch of white guys going on a road trip. It kind of celebrates. It's a defense of lethargy and ignorance. On one hand, you got a man who created an implant to help paralyzed people think. He builds rockets and cars. On the other hand, you got a guy who doesn't even get paid to be president. He could have retired, and he gets shot. But these are two rich guys talking. There's like this weird decline in the appreciation of achievement.
She needs chat GPT.
She definitely does. When I was growing up, you'd put them up on a pedestal and say, I want to be Howard Hughes. you know, or I want to be Joe DiMaggio. In this case, they don't like aspirational efforts unless the government can take credit for it. They mock private citizens when they do well because, you know, it's just two guys talking and it's like two rich guys talking, you know, and Waltz, you know what, Waltz doesn't have anything. He doesn't have a bank account. Isn't that amazing? No, it's not. It's kind of sad. I just want to touch on the 30-minute delay thing and watching people dunk on that. When you're an inventor who aims for big things, every day you have a failure to launch. Whether it's a rocket, whether it's a business, whether it's some social media experiment, that is, successful people fail every single day and they fail big. The only people who don't understand that are actual failures. People who aren't successful don't understand how failure is necessary to succeed. Compare Musk's failure last night to Harris failing spectacularly in the 2019 primary. She failed horribly and still got a VP slot. And then in 2024, they wanted her off the ticket, and she ended up on the ticket. So that doesn't happen in the private sector. You own your failures. You know, in the public sector, they just boost you on up.
I was thinking, when you mentioned the two rich guys having a conversation. What if it had been Donald Trump and Warren Buffett? Would that have been a complaint? Because Warren Buffett is very supportive of Kamala Harris. It's like, if you're rich on one end, then you're good, but if not, if you support Trump, then you're not good.
You know, but the point that Greg makes is a good one. I mean, these are guys who've reached the pinnacle in the business world, and they're just two of them having a free-flowing conversation that Kamala is trying to convince us, or the Democrats are trying to convince us, is really a threat to democracy.
They love saying that shit is a threat to democracy.
They can't control the narrative. And the amazing part of it is that Musk said, look, if Kamala Harris wants to come on X and have this conversation, I'd be happy to have her on as well. So I kind of like listening to some substance as opposed to talking for weeks on end about how Kamala just won't come out and speak. Although what she did do was,
how is that even allowed?
Apparently last night she says they're trying to control democracy, and so she started fundraising. Chip in $25 now so we can respond to their lies. It'd be real easy. Respond to their lies by, you know, sitting down and having an interview, maybe even with Elon Musk. But, you know, I liked hearing about an Iron Dome for the United States. I liked hearing about different things that could be helpful to us, some substantive things, and not the same stuff, you know, that we've been talking about. And I really admire the two of them for what they were willing to say and what they were unafraid of. And, you know, people are on Donald Trump all the time about the leaders of North Korea and Russia and China. He just talks about them being at the top of their game. He isn't praising them. He's speaking about reality. And, you know, when Biden is there, Putin invades Ukraine, Iran launches, you know, Hamas goes against Israel. And, you know, he really is just recognizing the reality of the world. So I think that a lot of this, and what the American people have to understand, is it is during the Biden administration and the Kamala Biden-Harris that they censored information, they called us extremists, you know, that they want to take us back, as opposed to the free-flowing information of democracy.
How did you see it, Harold?
I listened to parts of it. Good to be with you, Charlie. Good to see you. I listened. I saw you yesterday, and I love both of you. I love the judge.
Wow.
I'd say a couple things. I listened to about half of it. I don't care if they're poor guys or rich guys or middle class guys. They're two guys who have been very successful. It's interesting. In July of 2022,
that means they're rich.
Both of these guys said negative things about one another publicly. Mr. Musk said something on Twitter saying that Donald Trump was too old to serve out another term and that he thought DeSantis would run running away. And I think Mr. Trump said some things about Mr. Musk as well. I'm glad to see that we all can agree that they can move beyond those things. Two, Kamala Harris has her vulnerabilities, there's no doubt. She's trying her hardest to tack to the center on a number of issues. It will be interesting to see during this debate. It appears that on Friday she's going to give a speech in North Carolina about her economic policies.
Literally, yeah, she's never going to do an interview on X.
Or things that she aligns with
to
President Biden
11.2K, hell yeah.
I do find
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for all the taps.
Incompetent, and they don't
very good first live stream.
But then they assign all of the blame for everything that's happened bad in the economy. She's either smart or dumb.
You guys
I
are
think she's
still here.
smart. And
Make
we're
sure
gonna get a
you
chance
like,
to see on Friday whether or not she has real ideas and
follow
substantive
button.
ideas, or the
Tune
beginning
in for
of that,
the debate
to
on September
move
10th.
the country to a
We'll be
different
doing
place
that.
economically.
Trump-Harris debate.
I'll tell another thing about, I think, this coming Friday, and even as we get closer to the convention, President Trump had 28.5 million people watch him at his convention speech. I thought the first 25 minutes of that speech, Charlie and I were together, Dana and I were together that evening, was brilliant. I thought the remaining 60 or 70 could have been probably organized a little bit better. It'll be interesting to see if Vice President Harris, if she's able to, after this Friday's presentation, maintain the interest in her over the next week to see if she can get a big viewership as well. I hope she's able to. I think it's good for the country. Democrats shouldn't be confused, though. This race is extremely tight. It will remain tight for a while as we look at these states that where the
I'm going to start going live on TikTok more for sure.
And Kamala Harris is going to have to be on her A game, and so is President Trump. I will say the other takeaway I had from the other night or last night, I thought there were things they talked about substance, but it reminded me that Biden's frailties kind of mask some of Trump's challenges going into this race. And now that President Trump is trying his hardest to find a way to go to challenge and to go up against Vice President Harris, you heard sounds of it, Judge. I would agree with you. Some of those ideas were interesting. Some I even agreed with. Then you heard parts of it that were not. There was a little pessimism. I don't think you praise China's leader and Russia's leader. There's nothing wrong with saying we have to beat them, but I think praising those leaders, that's just not, to your point, Greg.
He wasn't praising them. That's what I was saying.
Well, let's put it this way. I've never heard, Greg made the point that there was a time we elevated these leaders, but there were leaders I remember watching as a kid, President Reagan, Mr. Chrysler, John Johnson, who ran Johnson Pump. They would never elevate leaders that way. They would talk about the challenges and how we would overcome those. At least that's how I grew up. And I agree with you in that regard. But look, we got a big race in front of us, and I'm looking forward to every debate and every exchange between these two candidates.
Do you think we get to sit next to each other at the convention next week, Harold?
I can't wait.
We can write notes back and forth.
I can't wait.
You'll be seen with us next week?
I have a picture with you on my phone.
Okay.
He shows it to everyone.
Yeah. Click here to subscribe to the
good old
Fox
Jesse
News
Welders.
YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most.
Yeah, that was nice. Well, glad I watched the Trump-Musk interview. That was very nice. Thank you guys for the likes, follows. I will be doing more live streams on TikTok. I'm going to be doing more conservative content on there on True Social Reports. Do some Bennett's, some Kirk's, Walsh, Knowles, Shapiro's, all types of good content. Maybe even every once in a while watch some of the other side just to see what they're saying. But yeah, thank you guys who stuck around till the end, and I will see you next time.